Welcome to the channel DSCSS. This is Sayyeda Sabah Hashmi. Today the topic is crime and criminality. Theoretical perspective. This section explores the various frameworks developed over time to explain the causes and nature of criminal behavior. From early speculative ideas to more systematic scientific theories, in this lecture, we will cover psychological theories. These theories focus on individual mental processes, personality traits, and early life experiences as explanations for criminal behavior. In early 20th century, we have psychoanalytic theories like Sigmund Freud, though was not a criminologist, but his psychoanalytic concepts, id, ego, superego, have been applied to crime. It suggests that unresolved unconscious conflict, weak superego development, or overactive id impulses could lead to criminal behavior. Criminality might be a manifestation of inner psychological turmoil. Now, let's see behavioral theories of mid 20th century. B.F. Skinner and operant conditioning argue that criminal behavior is learned through rewards and punishment. If criminal acts are reinforced, for example, through financial gain, peer approval, and punishment is weak or inconsistent, the behavior will continue. You can see this picture to understand this concept in detail. There are two types of reinforcement, positive and negative. Similarly, we have two types of punishment, negative and positive. In positive reinforcement, we add a pleasant stimulus to increase desired behavior. And in negative reinforcement, we remove an unpleasant stimulus to encourage desired behavior. And in negative punishment, we remove a pleasant stimulus to discourage undesired behavior. And in positive punishment, we add an unpleasant stimulus to decrease an undesired behavior. You can see the other picture in which a man is giving a cookie to a dog for positive reinforcement, and he is slapping the dog for positive punishment, and he is giving freedom to a dog as negative reinforcement, and he is taking something back from the dog for negative punishment. So that's how a dog would learn. If he wants some kind of reward and avoid punishment, then he has to do something in certain ways. So this is called operant conditioning. Next, behavioral theories of mid 20th century. Albert Bandura, in his social learning theory, emphasized that individuals learn criminal behavior not only through direct reinforcement or punishment, but also through observing and imitating others, particularly significant role models, for example, family, peers. His famous Bobo doll experiment in 1961 demonstrated observational learning. In this experiment, there were three groups of children. The first group observed an adult aggressively interacting with a Bobo doll, like punching, kicking, verbalizing aggression. The second group observed an adult playing non aggressively, and the third group was control group, meaning they saw no role model. So children were then made mildly frustrated somehow. Then children were observed playing in a room with a Bobo doll. So children who observed the aggressive model imitated significantly more aggressive physical and verbal acts toward the Bobo doll than the other group. Boys were generally more physically aggressive, especially after seeing a male model. Girls were generally more verbally aggressive, especially after seeing a female model. This suggests that children are more likely to imitate same-sex models. In late 20th century and present, cognitive theories focus on how offenders think and process information. Uchelson and Semenow, in their work The Criminal Personality, argued that criminals possess distinctive thought patterns and cognitive errors that lead them to crime. Uchelson and Semenow, in 1976, studied the criminal personality and investigated the offender's thinking pattern in order to prevent criminal behavior. This was a longitudinal study over 14 years using interviews. There were 255 male participants in the study and they came from a variety of backgrounds. They were interviewed at different times over the 14 years. 52 thinking errors were discovered. The text below shows which apply. As you can see, they need power and control, they fantasize about committing crime, they lack empathy and trust, and they don't accept responsibility for their own action, etc. Other cognitive approaches examine moral reasoning development. For example, Lawrence Kohlberg's stages of moral development, suggesting that offenders may operate at lower stages of moral reasoning. The Hans dilemma is a moral question proposed by Kohlberg in his studies on moral development. It involves a man named Hans who considers stealing a dirk. He cannot afford to save his dying wife, prompting discussion on the moral implication and justification of his potential actions. Lawrence Kohlberg's theory explains how people's idea about right and wrong change as they grow. He said this happens in six stages grouped into three main levels. Level 1, pre-conventional. Level 2, conventional. Level 3, post-conventional. 3 to 7 years old child and some adults too remain on level 1. Then 8 to 13 years old children and also some adults remain on conventional level. Very few people reach toward the level of post-conventional. At level 1, morality is extremely controlled. Rules are followed to avoid punishment or gain rewards. This perspective is egocentric. Stage 1 is obedience and punishment orientation. Reasoning behind it, individuals obey rules to avoid punishment, and right is what avoid troubles. Examples: Hans should not steal the drug because he will get caught or go to jail. Stage 2 is individualism and exchange. So it's instrumental purpose orientation. Reasoning behind it is that individuals act based on self-interest, seeking reward or satisfying personal need. There is a sense of what is in it for me, or you scratch my back, I will scratch yours. Example: Hans should steal the drug if he really needs his wife or if she will do something for him in return. Now, level 2, conventional morality. At this level, individuals conform to social rules and norms. The emphasis shifts from self-interest to maintaining good relationships, gaining approval, and upholding social order. So, stage 3 is about good interpersonal relationship, good boy, nice girl orientation. So, reasoning is individual seeks to be seen as good by others and want to maintain approval. They focus on loyalty, trust, and living up to expectation. Intentions behind actions are important. For example, Hans should steal the drug because that's what a good husband would do to save his wife. People would think poorly of him if he did not steal. Stage 4, maintaining the social order, law and order orientation. Reasoning is individual focus on upholding laws, rules, and social institutions to maintain social order and avoid chaos. Laws are seen as absolute and must be followed. Example, Hans should not steal the drug because stealing is against the law and laws are necessary to keep society functioning. Now level 3, post-conventional morality. At this high level, individuals move beyond societal conventions and define morality in terms of abstract principles and universal values that apply to all situations and societies. So there is a stage 5 which is about social contract and individual rights orientation. Reasoning is that individuals recognize that laws are social contracts that can be changed if they no longer serve the greater good or violate individual rights. There is an understanding that rules are for the benefit of all, but sometimes individual rights take precedence. Example, Hans should steal the drug because the law against stealing is not just when it means losing a life. The right to life is more fundamental than property rights. Then stage 6 is about universal ethical principles orientation. Reasoning is that individuals make decisions based on self-chosen abstract ethical principles, for example, justice, equality, dignity of human life, that are universally acceptable. These principles transcend law and social norms. Few people are believed to reach this stage. For example, Hans should steal the drug because human life is a universal ethical principle that outweighs any law against theft. One must act according to one's conscience even if it means breaking the laws. Lawrence Kohlberg suggested that offenders may operate at lower stages of moral reasoning, means they just focus on reward and punishment and then they commit crime. Now, personality theories, which link specific personality traits to criminal behavior. Personality traits, for example, impulsivity, sensation seeking, aggression, psychopathy. So, Hans Eysenck proposed a theory linking criminality to high scores on psychoticism, extroversion, and neuroticism. As you can see this figure, in which three primary dimensions of personality are described in details. Extroversion is marked by traits such as sociability, liveliness, and high need for stimulation. Neuroticism encompasses emotional instability and predisposition to experience negative emotion more intensely. Psychoticism includes traits like a lack of empathy, aggressiveness, and a tendency towards solitary behavior. So these are the theoretical perspective about crime and criminality related to psychology. If you have any question, ask in comment section and please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.